Hi, Leafy and Melanie. Just saying good morning from over in Canada. Oh, wait, you're in Canada. So what am I saying? Jeez. We'll just say good morning. We're about 10 minutes early, so we'll just hang out and people will start joining shortly, and Eric will be on in probably about like 10 to 15. So cool.
Hey Mal, where are you? At the coffee shop?
Yes.
No, was there no service at home or just?
Just monkey comes and
Yeah.
goes, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I just go here, and then I pop by at the printer shop.
Hold on a second. No, it's all right. All righty. I'm here in Tallinn, Estonia, and just having had a really good time, and just really want to jump into checking up with you guys. What I'm particularly interested in, look, I'm always interested in any questions you have, any feedback you have, any experience and that sort of stuff. What I'd really like to do is kind of go one by one and just get a general check-in from you on, and what I'm particularly looking for here is any practice that you've had, any victories that you've had, any obstacles you've bumped into, and failing that, just, you know, a general hello. And Kelsey, I am not able really to control my screen to see people properly for some reason. So if you could just sort of administer and make sure that we get through everybody, then that would be really good. As my screen is right now, I can see Leafy and Melanie, and I want to talk to them anyway. So if we could start with them. I don't know if Leafy's with you, Melanie. I only see Melanie.
I'm here too.
Yeah, we're both here, just in separate locations.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Okay, let me just see if there's something wrong here with my, no, my internet seems okay. I think it's, okay, there we go. Let's see, there.
Are you frozen?
Hello.
Your picture's frozen.
Is it? It shouldn't be. I'm on my side. It looks good, but I can't see any of you now. So there is something not right. Kelsey, can you unmute so I can get like direct feedback from you on the connection?
Yeah, on my side, I can see you. I can.
Yeah. See, guys, I'm gonna have to try to. There's something not right with the connection, and it's been fine here all week, so I don't know what the problem is. Bear with me 1 second. Elise, are you doing any like serious downloading by any chance? Thank you. I may have identified a small bandwidth problem we were having, so hopefully is that better? Does that seem better to you, Kelsey?
It does. Yeah, it's good for me.
No. Okay, but it was a long delay to get things. I'm going to just speak, and hopefully this is going to work out okay. So, Leaf and Melanie, I'd love to just hear from you guys in general terms. But before you speak, I wanted to let you know that we've made some really serious progress on the Speaker Nation front. I don't want to give a full update right now because it's not applicable to everybody. I just want you to know it's coming. I actually just had a really important meeting here in Tallinn about it, and it is definitely moving. It's gaining some good traction. So I know that I think we've been looking at a sort of more organic, like let's get a few sample clubs, but we've had so many people interested in really serious launch of this and inward investment and what have you. And I think we're going to go after a much bigger launch model than we'd originally envisioned. So I'm going to keep you guys posted. I just wanted you to know that. That said, tell me what's going on for you guys.
Well, it's going actually pretty well for both of us, I would say. For me personally, I can still say that the confidence level has increased still, and I'm really happy about that. And both Levi and I will have an opportunity later on in September or so. Levi, you probably have like the better dates for it, that we can present actually at our local speaker school. So that is really exciting.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, so what we did was the local speaker school that we started with that won't let us back in as participants and students. We exceeded their expectation. I figured, well, then how do we get back in there? So I approached them about us being paid presenters, which they offer honorariums. And I also have an opportunity for representing both Melanie and I, and of course getting in there, have an opportunity to sit on their board, and what they are is a nonprofit that help underprivileged people get their empowerment through speaking their truth. And it was done with the Workers Alliance for Worker Injuries about 20 years ago locally. So it's kind of a neat kickback in empowering people to speak and get their stories. So I thought it would be definitely a nice bridge between Speakers Nation and getting the message out and all those wonderful things.
Exactly.
And then behind the scenes, because of course, you guys know, if you haven't heard, we're Coaches of the Year. Thank you very, very much for WildFit. That front has been going well. And what we've done and walked away with from Speaker School was really enhancing our content and the delivery of our message in the most inceptive way. So it's been amazing to really see how much growth that has come out of this, and it's been a blessing. And we're looking forward to repeating Speaker School because you can only go better every time.
Exactly.
So those are our updates.
Good deal. That sounds awesome, guys. Let me. I kicked you out because you kicked you out of the speaker club because you were too good. But
Yeah.
they're happy to have you back as long as they pay you. Did I really hear that?
Yes, you did.
I like it. Kelsey, I think we need to make a note of that. That'll make a good BFSA story.
Yeah. And
Good
so,
deal.
yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, very much for the update. Kelsey, can you get us all set for the next one?
Okay, next one up, I'm going to pick Carol. I'm just unmuting you right now. There you go.
Well, hello, everyone. It was a little surprise
Hello.
one. I've been having a really good time coming back here. I think some of the things that really crystallized for me during being in Oslo was the personal impact it had on me. So going through your personal story, creating a story, I had an aha moment realizing why I'm teaching. It's because I got so hurt while I was being taught as a child. So that has given me a new level of empathy for my clients. And I speak of my clients as both as my parents and the children who I care for deeply, but it's given me a real personal connection with them. So that's been impactful overall. I spend a lot of my time doing videos right now within my company for training. So I think one of the things that I've heard today was my intonations changing. So rather than it being blah, I'm going, trying to engage people with different levels of content and voice. They're not seeing me because I'm actually using online tools. So that's been, I'm grateful for that as well.
That's awesome, Carol. That's really excellent. I really can relate to that idea. Like I shared with you before, thought that maybe my career path was to become a teacher. And and one of the things that I noticed when I was in boarding school was that the best teachers really did view the parents and the teachers as the client. They really saw it that way. And I think it's really nice to hear you say that, because I think it's absolutely true. So and I'm super glad to hear that you're seeing the vocal intonation spreading into your video recordings. It's absolutely true that, basically it's like an elastic band. We just stretch it out and it's just going to be bigger, and it'll start showing up in a bunch of different places, including in your videos and personal conversations and everything else. So that's super cool. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Carol. So next up, we have Diane. You're good.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Diane.
Hey,
It's been ages, Diane.
it's been ages, and I've been kind of under a big rock that's called my building, trying to get this construction completed. And what's been really interesting, I've spent time being extremely frustrated that I don't have time to do what I love to do and the things that I've learned in the courses I've taken with you. And I've also realized that this project that I can see the end of it, is really the place for me to put everything into practice, including how I communicate and taking responsibility for making sure that people completely understand and follow through with what I want them to do. And also developing a really strong desire to get on with the things that I really love doing. And so I, like, for a while I was so frustrated, feeling this is not what I want to spend 1 minute of my life doing, but I know that everything is unfolding, and I'm getting all the preparation that I need to eventually and soon really put everything into practice. The other thing I just want to mention was Carol's and your understanding of the reason why you are passionate about educating. I totally relate to that, because I don't know whether I've had a chance to tell people about the experience I had at the Speaking Academy, where I had a complete meltdown because I realized that I didn't really understand what it was like for the students that I've been working with to want something really badly and have no clue how to achieve it. And I got to that point in the Speaking Academy, and I'm calling it kind of false or misunderstood empathy. I thought I was empathetic to people, but I realized I wasn't, because I couldn't possibly know what they felt like until I felt it. And so I'm coming forward and redesigning everything I'm doing, rewriting my books from a completely different place. So yeah, it's been awesome, and I'm really looking forward to putting all of this into teaching action instead of construction action.
That sounds really, really good, Diana. And yeah, it's interesting to hear that, I don't know, but you seem to have a much more relaxed sort of, you seem to have a much sort of relaxed disposition about the construction and about the obstacle and that kind of stuff. And that's really positive too.
That's very true. Like you get to a point where you realize there's no reason to be anxious about anything, because everything is just unfolding the way it will. And I guess, but there was always a part that I think I really want to be working with students who I know are looking for what I'm offering, and even that is fine. So yeah, it's all good. And I'm just so grateful for everything, all the courses.
Good deal. Thank you, Diane.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane. So next we will move.
Thank you very much.
Janine, I'm muting you right now. You're good to go.
Well, good morning, everybody. Let me see. So much has happened since the academy. And it's been more of a journey of discovering where I really want to put my strengths and my energy and my time. I've had the opportunity to travel across Canada, and I've spoken at 2 events called Women Talk and had great feedback. I have a chapter in a book that's going to be published in the fall in a compilation book. And I'm in the process as well of connecting with corporate business people to discuss with them training programs that I can offer them. So it's been a very fascinating journey that I've had. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's super inspiring. That's really, really good stuff. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay. So next up, we have, this is just Julie. All I see is the name Julie. So just going to unmute you here. There you go, Julie.
Hi, thanks.
Just Julie.
Just Julie.
Julie Growell. Okay. Hey, Eric. So I was in Tallinn a few weeks ago. Hey. And
Yeah.
I had a big aha moment last week, actually. Because I was, when I was in Tallinn, I was quite emotional on, days 3 and 4. And I was trying to practice this story. And having trouble feeling into it, and then, really feeling it and, being a total mess. But I was sort of struggling to get the message that I wanted to get out, or I had a message. And it was only when I got home last week, or, sometime, that the message finally kind of sunk in what it was. So that was a really big kind of aha moment for me. And I realized I think I had some stuff to let go of, which was basically what I was doing in Tallinn. Kind of my body was, intellectually, with the story, intellectually I had sort of released it years ago and been sort of okay with it. But clearly my body was holding on to, some emotion about it. So that was huge. So yeah, and I've been.
That's a big deal. It's an important thing to recognize that sometimes we can hold on to a story very consciously, but that we can also hold on to stuff unconsciously, and that often show up for people in pain and injury and blockage and what have you. So that's not a small thing.
Yeah, because I couldn't quite figure it out in Tallinn. I was like, why am I so emotional about this? Because I've dealt with this, and I'm okay with it. But clearly there was something there that needed to be let go of. So that was a pretty big deal. And otherwise, since then, it's been great. I've been telling everyone all about BFSA, and people have noticed the difference in how I'm communicating. Being a lot more open and confident about sharing how I feel about things, which is for me, a big deal. And people are noticing that.
Awesome.
So yeah, so it's all good.
Julie, that's one of my favorite things about this is that, very often people will come into the program and it is about, perfecting a presentation or becoming good on stage or just even getting comfortable in front of an audience, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But when you begin to notice the knock-on effect, like we've already heard on a few of the check-ins here, that's like, wow, I am being different. It's not that I do different presentations, that I am being different. So that's really awesome. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Julie. Okay, so next up is we have Julie Brown. You're unmuted. You're good to go.
Hi. The journey's been productive, but different than I thought. Like I had to join late because I'm not actually supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be on a plane, so things change. I had more revelations that happened at Wildfest Beta related to this, and a big one that came was what was holding me back is when I would convey what I was saying, teaching, sharing, coaching, I would always feel like I had to give context to defend my point of view or my perspective or why I felt it was important. And to release that has been a really, really big deal. And I've been employing it a lot personally and in other things that are just natural interaction, like just this is my knowledge, or this is my position, or this is my statement, or this is what I want, or don't, and just dropping it and just letting it settle in and being happy with that and letting go. And I didn't realize the circumstance was affecting me that way. Like she said, I thought it had cleared. I thought that was gone. And then when I realized how that carried forward in that quirk, it was so much better. So I see that the things that I struggled with in Calgary are becoming easier. Because I don't have to tell you 50 billion things.
Julie, there's a big, you're going to know what I mean here, but self-esteem plays a major role in everything you've just described. When somebody has taken a few knocks and they're operating from a place of, let's call it bruised, lowered, or diminished self-esteem, even in a moment, they feel that their ideas, that their thoughts are not as worthy as others. And so now there steps in this whole process of having to defend them. For example, you share an idea and then maybe you get a little bit of silence, and that silence might be amazement. It might be people taking a moment to think, but if you come at it from a lower or damaged or diminished self-esteem perspective, that silence will come across as judgment. And so then in that moment of judgment, it's like, whoa, what I really meant was, and then not only, and I don't know if you've ever had this, but not only will you try to explain it, but you'll even try to change the explanation a little bit to satisfy the listeners. And then it's not your truth at all. And then it starts moving away maybe from your truth. So getting that place where you don't feel like you have to justify your position, that you've stated it clearly and that you can stand by it, is a really, really powerful thing. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. So next we have Linda. I've unmuted you, Linda. You're good to go.
Hi. Thank you, Kelsey. Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone.
Linda.
I'm here.
It's like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, isn't it though? That's because I'm still in Tallinn. Yeah. No. I have been processing since the end of Speaker Academy, and it's been amazing the things that have come up and come through, and I'm so grateful for that. And I had no clue that there was still that much processing left to do. Amazing. But the other thing that's been good is I've sat down and I've done about 75% of my outline of the workshop I want to teach when I get home since the end of Speaker Academy. And I had none of it done
Awesome.
before I left. So.
That's excellent. That's really, really good. Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. So next we actually have Lucas. As a fun fact, while I'm unmuting him, he was in the circus as a kid. Unmute. There we go.
I'm not entirely surprised by that.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Yeah, it's been a great few months since April. It feels like it's been a few years since the Speaking Academy, and the way things have changed and rolled along in my life has been pretty awesome. I've participated in a couple of speaking competitions since then and took first place in one and third place in the other. I was pretty proud of that. Just the way I communicate in general has changed.
Lucas, make sure you send us some details about that so we can put it on Facebook.
Okay, yeah, I will for sure. But yeah, it's just the changes I've found that I've got out of Speaking Academy were so much more than just learning to speak better, but just coming into myself and becoming okay with who I am as a person has been huge since then. Going in, I used to have this idea that I didn't really have much to say and people weren't really interested in hearing what I had to say, and that maybe my life story wasn't that interesting or anything. And since then, for one thing, I've learned that I had way more to say than I thought, and people are interested in hearing it. And what that's done for my level of confidence is indescribable. It's given me the confidence and the self-esteem to kick my business into higher gear. It's helped me communicate better with my customers, my friends, my family. It's just taken my life to a whole nother level that I can't even really articulate properly. And then just being more active in speaking has been really awesome too. Just having found a new activity that I enjoy so much and something else that I can do to help spread my message and connect with people and everything. It's just so great.
Lucas, that's just fully inspirational. Every bit of what you just shared there just is really deeply inspirational to me. I don't know if you and if anybody can appreciate that program is the most psychically and energetically demanding program of anything that I teach. And there are, no kidding, moments usually on day 4 where I wonder why I do it. Because I have to put so much into it. And all the check-ins that I've heard today, right up to and including yours, Lucas, are why. In the end, the long hours, the flying around the world, the giving people the gift of that self-confidence, the communication, the clarity it's one of my favorite things to give somebody, because I know what my life was like before I had it. And I can't even imagine what my life would be like now if I hadn't found it. So Lucas, I'm super excited for what you've reported in. And what I'll tell you, I'm even excited is what you're going to do from here. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucas. So next we have Michelle. I just have the name Michelle on the screen. And fun fact about her, she grew up in Hawaii and she loves elephants.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Gosh, update. It's been a bit of a whirlwind because I did some travel immediately after. I would have loved to have stayed there a couple more days with all of you. Like Diane, I've actually returned to LA into some very disruptive construction in the home. But what's really cool is the ease with which I'm moving through it and dealing with it, but also what happened for me through the Speaking Academy week and immediately after was recognizing how I was showing up. And because I had so many different things stacked together that were pretty demanding, and then watching you, Eric, show up the way you did and give so much to all of us, it just made me, it was interesting to see, based on feedback, based on experience, how I was not able to show up fully, both the week prior to Speaking Academy in a very intensive week program that I had to do then, and then also for Speaking Academy. And then getting really clear about, well, it's still happening actually, I'm getting clearer about how to put my thoughts together for what I'm creating and how to communicate it. And the approach, through everything we learned with you, instead of being so caught up in the, I don't know, my thoughts perhaps, instead of being more focused on, okay, what is it that I'm trying to communicate here?
Yeah, that clarity of thought process, able to formulate a presentation and debate, whatever the case may be, that really is a big thing. And it's something we hear a lot from students as well, is it's like, quite aside from style and all that kind of stuff, it's the ability to know what you want to achieve and then be able to put something together to actually get that point of view across. And I don't know, Michelle, if you've had this or if anybody else has had this, but it's like, one of the things that I noticed when I got really comfortable speaking is it's much less frequent now that I can be in a negotiation or a heated discussion or a debate or what have you, where I end up walking away saying, oh, I wish I said this, because somehow I figure out how to say it, somehow it comes out. So that's really cool, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Now we go on to Michelle Henderson Top. Just unmuting you here. As we've learned from Wildfest, she is a wonderful dancer.
And a fan of Jesus.
Thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate that. Hello, everybody. so I was just thinking, wow, I haven't done enough stuff. And then Lucas said, well, it's only been since April. And I thought, oh yeah, that's right. It's only been since April, although it does feel like a very long time. I think the big thing for me is when I told a bunch of my friends and family that I had been the runner-up, nobody was surprised. And then I thought, well, how come I didn't know that? And, you know, one of my friends actually said, you didn't know that we think you're, you know, a really great storyteller and that you're, you know, and I said, no, like nobody's, and he said, oh my God, that's just bizarre. And it became very obvious to me. I'm also a hypnotherapist as that's what I do for a living. And it became very obvious to me that people have these beliefs and you cannot see outside of the box of your belief. You could be the best in the world at something, and if you don't have a belief about yourself that you're not good at anything, you're never going to see it. And so when the last call that Shelley Lefko was on, thank you very much, Eric, for introducing me to her, I put my hand up and I was I got to be the sample, the test guinea pig. And I thought, wow, this is a really great thing. So I'm now doing the Lefko, working through that, the self-esteem, because I really do think that those kinds of things, even if there could be opportunities floating around me ad infinitum, and if I don't have that, if I'm stuck inside these boxes, I'm not going to see even the truth about myself, even the gifts that I have brought, and what kind of a sad thing that would be for me if I, at the end of my life, you know, left the planet with boxes I hadn't opened yet, presents I hadn't opened yet, gifts that were mine that I hadn't shared with other people. And then also now I have such a passion for helping other people with that as well. And I have found that the really good way to do it is just say you're telling a story, but you're the storyteller. And so let's tell a different story. And it allows people to be a little bit, you know, disengaged from the fact that, you know, that they are taking ownership or identify with something they don't, you know, that not a great belief. But to go in and say, no, I'm a storyteller. And then I find during the scripts that I'm writing, I'm doing more stories. It's more stories. There's a flow to it. And the feedback's really phenomenal. So for me, that whole thing, the idea that I'm a good storyteller, the importance of being a storyteller, and the importance of other people realizing their lives are just stories and they're just the power that they bring to the table is to be a storyteller, has been a huge shift for me.
Michelle, your story resonates so incredibly loudly and solidly, and you know, with just clarity for me, because you know, I don't know if you know the expression in real estate. They talk about you know, evaluating a house and looking for the Rembrandts in the attic, and it's a metaphor because, you know, it's happened from time to time that some house goes to an estate auction, and then they're looking through the house, like trying to figure out, and then they find an old Rembrandt painting worth $1.8 million in the attic. And so now if you bought that house for $100,000, you've done a pretty good job. And so, you know, one of the things that I think that the Speaking Academy does for people is it allows them to find the Rembrandts in the attic, and in their own attic, in their own head. And those Rembrandts can be really great stories they didn't realize they had, really great passions they didn't realize they could communicate, really great confidence they didn't realize was in there. And in your case, it really was, I saw this so clearly, is a real enjoyment of storytelling, an enjoyment that some people in the program developed as the program went on, but it was an enjoyment that you had all along. But what was really funny to me is watching you, observing yourself. Like, I could see it on your face. You were telling a story, and I could see that in your mind you were thinking, this is really fun. Well, I didn't, you know, like it was like you were discovering it. And I watched you discovering yourself, and it was really, really neat. So to hear you be able to articulate that now just is really beautiful. I'm really glad to hear that. It's super cool.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. So next up we have Ritva. She also loves to dance, and based on her talk in Oslo, she is the reason why she doesn't drink anymore.
Very oh yes, yeah. I was having a lot of fun there in Oslo, and um, yeah, yeah. It was yeah. This feeling that I had there was keeping me very high for many days at least. And also, it was very interesting to notice that there were so many stories that were popping up in my head, and there has also been a lot of process of clearing many things that I have been like a burden in my well, more or less on subconscious level, and. Also, I see now that there is so many possibilities that I could choose from, that I don't know what to choose. And also, I have noticed that nobody's coming to get me from home. So whatever I wish to do, I just need to reach somebody or do something so that I would go. Further with at least with some of those possibilities that I have. Yeah, that's more or less what I have in my mind at the moment.
Good deal, Rifa. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Rifa. So next up we have Pipa. Oh, you're right there. All right, you're good to go.
Thank you. I've been enjoying seeing myself talking to loads of different people in stories. So I've been much more conscious of the conversations I've been having and the storyline as opposed to the set of facts. And as some of you may know, I have at least one, but maybe more, books in my head that I've started to, I suppose, get onto paper broadly. And I've been thinking for some time about how to do this. And I'm very conscious now that I have my points and I have my stories, and they go in written form for me first. But that equally, I have additional stories that support the points that won't go in written form, such that I can talk about things freshly and differently from the writing, whilst having everything about the same topic or topics. So that's been quite fun. I have had a glance at Toastmasters locally and got scared by the website because it was all very formally English and full of apparently old men. So I'm hoping that Eric's ideas of spawning more speaking groups locally is something that I can play with and help get going, perhaps sooner rather than later. And there's something that's, and this will make Eric laugh, I suspect, as well as others of you that were there in Oslo, that is a bit more playful in seeing life and telling life in stories, which I'm enjoying.
Pippa, that's really, really inspiring. And then you're absolutely right. You know, I had to speak to a bunch of teenagers here at the Mind Valley University event. And that's one of the things I really reminded them of, is that everything is a story, and life just becomes more interesting when you get that you get to write your responses, you get to write your reality, and you get to and then those stories are inventory, and it just turns life into an adventure. You know, I said to them at one point, you know, how long would you play a video game if it was never difficult? How long would you play a video game if it didn't challenge you? And so now when you come up against the challenges, it's just stories, and it just makes the whole thing more fun. So thanks, Pippa. That's really sweet. Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So next up, we have Rosemary. I'm just unmuting you here. And one thing I love about Rosemary is anywhere she goes, she wants to take care of people. I know she was like that in Wildfest for me. So I love you, Rosemary. Here you go.
Thank you. Since the Speaking Academy, that layer of fear left, which was huge. And everything is so light now and humorous and funny. And I'm out in nature a lot more. I spend a lot less time in front of my computer. Here's a very fragrant rose from my garden. So I'm in the process of writing a history of my grandfather coming to America and everything he did with business and how he uplifted the Chinese people. He's in the Statue of Liberty next to I Am Pei, because they have like 2 people from each country. So anyway, I'm in the process of putting that together, and a lot of things I can't find historically on the internet, but I remember through stories that I was told and stories that were passed down to me from my family. So I'm reliving my life in stories, but it's a whole different perspective because there's such a lightness to it now. It's totally different than before the Speaking Academy. My perspective on my life has changed. And when Eloise and I go through something, we'll be going through some kind of, Eloise is my sister and we took it together. And we'll be talking about something and she'll go, I'm going to put this on my story journal because it's really funny. It's some kind of experience. And now the stories that I have in my story journal are becoming so animated and funny that it's just great to have that perspective on my life, to have everything feel so light and beautiful. And I'm in my garden a lot. And I've just canceled a lot of trips that I had because I just felt like staying home. And so there's this amazing sense of joy of just being at home, of the most simple things, going for a walk, being in my garden. Life has become richer and simpler and more joyous without doing anything outwardly. It's amazing. Thank you, Eric, for having this platform for me to come out. And the other thing is, in business,
Rosemary, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, in business, we're creating a miracle. We're putting 3 generations of a business that had a lot of tragedy and death threats and bombs, and it was a business, but there were so much money involved that our lives were at stake at different times. And so we're putting an end to that. We're transforming it. And that only came about, I believe, because we just took a whole different perspective on it. And we said, we don't have to do this, and we're not going to pass it on to another generation, to Eloise's kids. We're just freeing ourselves from everything that was oppressive, that had too much drama, that was violent, that was negative. I mean, those things are just melting away. It's phenomenal.
That's really amazing, Rosemary. I mean, it fits with stuff I've said already, is that when I created this program, I really had no idea the ancillary splash rings that it would create in people's lives off stage. And, your story really highlights that beautifully. Really nice to see you and hear your voice. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Thank you, Rosemary. All right. So next up, we have Suzanne Jones. Come on down.
Hi, everybody. At the beginning of the call, I was getting a little scared because I was like, I have this tendency to really beat myself up for not accomplishing. And then I was like, wait a minute, it was only 3 months ago. Calm down, girl. So, yeah, so having said that, I have not spoken anywhere yet. And that's a big yet. I absolutely do plan on it, but there's nothing there's nothing there yet. Videos I plan on doing as well. About a week after I got home, I was talking to my son. My kids live across Canada. And he's like, wow, you speak differently. You sound more clear in your thoughts. Now, I'm not actually sure if that's still the case, but at least a week after I got back, he said, you sound, because before I was trying to get everything out in one mouthful. And I do think I still do that to some extent. But anyway, that was really nice to hear. I like Diane's thought of things unfolding, and because I do struggle still with why am I not where I think I should be after all the work I've done and stuff like that. And the other thing is, unlike everybody else, I don't have, it doesn't matter what course I take, it's very hard for me to clearly define what I glean from it. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist as well. And so what I do know is, and what I tell my clients is, things will change and you won't even notice that they're changing. Like it's almost like somebody will point something out to you. And I almost feel like that's kind of how I live. I don't know how to explain it, but I can't say that what specifically has been life altering for me, although I'm sure it's a bunch of little things. When I went in to there, I was very much like Michelle. I'm very much a storyteller. I've got a lot of energy, blah, blah, blah. I went there and I froze and I cried like a baby. It was most ridiculous. It wasn't ridiculous. It was life unfolding, but I completely froze. It's exact opposite to the way I am normally on a day-to-day basis. Have I opened up more? I don't know if I can open up more. You can't be more open than I generally am. So I know there's a little bit of conflict I'm kind of sharing here, but I do feel more confident. Again, a few days after I got back, I did do a video about it in the group where a friend of mine attacked me wrongfully, and we're good now. But I immediately was like, okay, so if I have a fear of being online, too much online, if my own friends can't see, are going to judge, we'll say, then I guess I can expect it online. If they can judge and I can handle it. So what I'm saying is I handled it very well, and it was like, I blew it off, and it was like, whatever, it didn't bother me. So I think there's that part too. I did that bit of confidence that I gained as well, if that makes sense at all. So much for my clarity in talking.
No, listen, I'm touching what you've said, and I'll tell you that the program, like with
I can't hear anything.
Well, it looks like he's just trying to reconnect. We'll give him a second. Eric, you're just muted. I'm going to unmute you right now. There we go. Give it a try.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Test.
You're breaking up still. Coming through, but a little broken.
Well, apparently I'm supposed to keep talking, so.
Yes, please do, Suzanne.
No, I of course now the cat's got my tongue of all time.
Of course.
See that? You give me the floor and I freeze, right? I got to be all impromptu and just kind of slide in there and make a scene.
Looks like he's trying to reconnect. We'll just give him a second.
All right.
Oh, cool.
It's really nice to see everybody, though, and hear everybody's stories.
It is. Hearing updates from everyone and how they've progressed and where they're coming from. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I'm glad you all could make it. Suzanne, what was your story about again that you shared?
At the end?
Yeah.
My whole life being about rejection, being rejected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I cried like a baby at the end of it. It was a crazy, I don't know if I shared this with everybody, but it was the craziest thing. A lot of anxiety was built up. Oh, is Eric there?
He's almost back on. He's still muted, so we'll give him a second.
And so at the end, if you were there and saw it, I just broke down. But it was like everything just went.
You're here, Eric. You sound good.
Suzanne, I'll try and say what I was saying before, but that when people go through an experience like Speaking Academy, very often there's like tangible gains, as in they go do a presentation and they go, wow, I won this award, or I got these accolades, or what have you. And then, of course, there's the intangible gains. And so that's, for example, your son saying to you, wow, you're more concise, your thoughts are more clearly put together. One of the problems with the intangible gains is that you will begin to get used to the progress you've made, and then it'll stop feeling like progress. So in as much as you were saying at the end of your kind of talk there, you said, well, so what from, or so much for my clear thought process, what have you. No, the fact is that the way you spoke, the pauses that you left, the deliberation you put into it is all different from the way you did this before. And so it's important for you to check in with that stuff, and don't diminish the feedback that people give you about that, because it's there.
Well, thank you for that.
I have a special guest appearance for you.
Hi. Look at her.
Say hello.
Zoe.
You say hello. Hello.
Hi, Zoe.
No, hello. All right. Well, not this time. All right. Yeah. Anyway, so I hope that helps. And like I said, when people give you the feedback, I think it's important that you hear it, because they have a much more objective view of you than you do. That's just the nature of objectivity. So well done, and thanks for the feedback.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, so Sharon is up next. So just unmute you here. You're good to go.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. Hi, everybody. I'm quite excited because this is the first time I've known about one of these, and very excited to be here. It's funny to see you're really cutie wooty. Our next door neighbours have had a newborn baby, so there's this baby moon energy going on around here. Yeah, one of the big takeaways that I got was the no problem mentality. She doesn't have to be quiet. She can be as noisy as she likes, because it's no problem. The no problem mentality. And it's interesting because I've got friends that are budding speakers here and also speaker trainers in London. And some of them were in situations where they didn't expect to go and talk. Somebody was entertaining or singing and stuff like that. And one of my friends got up and just decided to tell some stories and got an ovation unexpectedly. And I never even told him about all of this no problem. So it's almost like the energy shares out to people you know. And the other thing that I've realized is I think I am a natural storyteller anyway. And I'll give you an example of that. I parked my car where I live in Muswell Hill, and somebody parked into the back of it and left the car. Then 2 days ago, a truck reversed into my car again and smashed up the headlight. And in trying to get it sorted and find out who it is, getting everyone on board, because I'm going away in a couple of days, I've noticed that I've been telling stories to people. And in telling them stories and then being entertained, it seems like they want to help you out more, or they connect with you more, and things, even though it seems like I've had a series of disasters, it seems to be flowing, because I'm going to Boom for the first time in Portugal in 2 days, and the theory is being egoless and consciousness and disconnected from all technology. And then I'm going on a soul safari to Sabi Sands, and immediately after that with William Whitecloud. And the theme there is no ego and the past is over. And it's interesting that William Whitecloud is also a fantastic storyteller. And I just now realizing more why it's so compelling. The other aspect is about the telling stories is I got over my fear of doing a Facebook Live. I don't know why I had a fear of it, because I've got no qualms whatsoever about getting up on stage and talking, singing, whatever it is. But I had a fear of that for some unknown reason. And then now I've done it, I haven't done very more afterwards, but I know full well it's going to be no problem because I've gone over that hurdle. Because once you know you can tell stories, any worries or fears that you have, they're just gone. You can just be yourself, tell your stories. And even if it makes mistakes, there's no such thing as mistakes when you're telling stories. So that's given me the confidence as well. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to traveling and telling my stories, whether I'm on stage or not, with all the new people that I'm meeting.
Sharon, that's awesome. There are a couple of thoughts I want to offer you about that. One is, you know, that whole thing. Really? Is that really what you want to say right now?
Okay.
So, when you talk about, like, when you're doing something scary, you're doing something scary for the first time, and then sometimes just doing that thing moves it out of the scary mode. And part of that is that, generally speaking, the part of something that is scary is the unknown part, right? It's like, you know, I don't know how this is going to make me feel. I don't know how I'll feel about it when it's done. I don't know how good the video will be, or whatever the case may be. And it's that fear that is overcome when you do something for the first time. So you do it, and then it's like, oh, all those unknown things that I was worried about didn't actually happen. And so that's a big thing. It's like, it's why I just come down to this idea of, I tend to regret the things I don't do a whole lot more than the things I do, you know? So it's just kind of a little guiding idea. The one thing I also want to caution you on a little bit with the story thing, and it is an important thing, and it's something I've had to really notice, is that, you know, you mentioned this thing of that once you can share the story, you're able to inspire people to want to help you, and that's great. And the one problem is I found that I got to a position where I would go to a hotel or an airline or a restaurant, and I would have like a really terrible experience. And because I was able to relay that experience to the manager in a really effective way, they would always give me a free meal or a bottle of champagne, or, you know, always. And so I just became the king of getting free hotel stays, you know, free meals, whatever, because they would screw things up. I would give them really good feedback about it. And then I started realizing, I started feeling, you know what, I'm attracting all this stuff. I'm enjoying getting the free stuff. And so I'm attracting it. And so I developed a new policy, and that was, I'm allowed to tell the story, to give them the feedback, but I no longer will accept their free things. So I won't take the free meal, and I won't take the free bottle of champagne. I won't say never. It depends on the circumstance, but 9 times out of 10, I won't do it, because I found that my ability to tell stories and get benefit from it was causing me to manifest customer service fiascos. So just keep an eye on that, as fun as it can be. But otherwise, that sounds very inspirational. I love the idea of sort of the osmosis issue of, you know, when you adopt a no problem energy, doesn't that potentially spread that on to others? So thanks so much for sharing very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. So next up we have Sue. She is a 5-time grandma of 5 beautiful grandbabies. And on the last day of the BFSA Calgary, she not only gave her speech, but she went and spoke to her own group of people as well. So she applied what she learned.
Hi, Kelsey. It's so great to see everyone. Thank you so much. And I just want to really reiterate what Sharon was speaking about, as well as Eric's comment. So thank you for that. What I'm really finding is, you know, I've been a professional speaker for a long time. And what I'm finding is that the people that I'm training and that are in the work with me are now stepping up because I've stepped up. It's given them space to step up as well. So thank you so much for that, Eric. That's been very, very helpful. The other thing that I'm finding really interesting is, and this is to kind of piggyback on Sharon in the FaceTime Live video, I've been encouraged over and over again to do videos, and I have just, you know, there's never time to do them. There's just never time to get the videos done. And we received some really cool funding from the Alberta government. I didn't receive it directly, but the Alberta government is providing funding for everyone who works with accredited daycares in the province of Alberta, and they provide provincial grant money. And our program was credited to receive that grant money in terms of people can come and do that. And so I thought I need to make up a series of videos because educators don't have time to, you know, come to a meeting or whatever, but if I could do a series of videos. And so I put together a series of one day, booked a video recorder guy, and we just went and did it. And when they were editing, I said, you know, I want it off the floor and really authentic and real. And so don't edit it a whole bunch. And I just got the word back last night that we have 15 videos and they didn't have to edit them at all. So, and we did that in a time of about an hour and 20 minutes with an audience of people. And, you know, in the past that would have been either not done or B, hugely stressful. And I just had fun with it. And I think that's the other thing that I'm noticing is that in my 2.5-day workshops, I'm far more, I have more energy at the end, and just, you know, and that's been a really lovely thing because I do, you know, kind of like you, Eric, those kind of full-on days, and instead of kind of making sure I'm home within an hour of when it finishes, because otherwise I'm going to, you know, fall asleep at the wheel, I have the energy. I can go in and enjoy myself afterwards. And so that's really, really been nice. And I'm super grateful to both Kelly and Lucas who live in Alberta, and both of them came to one of the 2.5-day events. And it was really, I had two of them in April, so a couple of weeks after we finished. And it was really nice to have them and have that feedback and that support. And so, yeah, it's been a really lovely thing. The other really cool thing that's happened for me is I am now having to say, I'm really sorry I can't make that speaking engagement because I'm already booked. I know, it's just, so I actually have bookings out into next summer already, paid speaking engagements. And so that's really cool, and new stuff coming up all the time. So, you know, it hasn't translated yet in terms of you know, conversion, and I don't like that word at all, but in terms of sales, it hasn't converted in the same way, but lots more speaking opportunities. And so working on the intention and getting very clear about that. So thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome. I can really relate to what you're talking about with the shooting of videos. You know, I really used to hate talking to cameras, and when I figured out, you know, that I don't know what happened, but when I got really comfortable with speaking, I remember the very first time I had to record something for a camera was in Las Vegas about, you know, 10-ish years ago, and I went in to record this video, and I didn't see any of the other people that were recording their segments. It was just, you know, I went into the studio, recorded my segment, and as I left, the producer came up to me and said, you know, something like, "Oh, how long have you been in broadcast?" And I said, I'm not. But you just shot like a 15-minute movie, a 15-minute segment that will not require editing, and you did it in a single take. Like, yeah. Well, like, what the hell? And I go, well, when you're in front of a live audience, you don't really have a lot of choice. You don't have a retake. And so to this day, we shoot a lot of digital products, and we shoot a very near 1-to-1 ratio in terms of what content ends up actually going out. And that is because I'm so used to speaking in front of audiences. So I'm glad to hear that it's translating into your video stuff as well. Lots of good stuff there. Super excited about the bookings. And yes, it is very cool. It is very cool when you have to turn down bookings because you're already booked. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Suze. All right. Last up, we have Vicky. Last but not least.
Hi, Eric. I'm still getting ready. And I'm still pushing for LA next year, but since you tell me that's not possible, I'll go with Calgary. So I've been a caregiver for 18 years, and my mom has had 2 strokes, my grandmother, who's 105, and it's kind of made my life like not have a life. So when I signed up for this, I realized I had to get back to speaking again and having a life. And I used to teach stress management, because you teach what you need to learn. And so I started teaching again, and I realized how much I love it and how much I know and how good I am at it. So in April, I was gifted this ticket to this business conference for like $1,000. And I had no idea what it was, but I went. And the third day of it, they had a speaking competition for everybody trying to sell their business. And the leader looked at me and said, "Are you going to speak?" And I said, "No." And then I thought about it, and I thought, all right, wait a minute. I'm trying to get ready. So I chose to speak on caregiving, which I'd never been able to do without completely breaking down. And so they had 4 awards, and like the top people, and then whose product would you buy. And anyways, the facilitator put in another award for the person who most pulled you in and held you. And that was me. So that led to me talking to one of the other facilitators who was saying, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I said, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something for caregivers, but I don't know what it is, because my main message is caregiving will destroy your life and suck the soul out of you. And I don't think people really want to hear that. And so she said,
it's not the most inspirational title I've ever heard.
Yeah. So anyway, she said, I would love to read a book about how hard caregiving is. And then, has this ever happened to you? And what tools do you have to help with it? And all of a sudden, it was just like light bulb went off. And anyways, over a series of events, I'm working on writing the Caregiver Survival Manual based on the stories of what I've gone through, and then giving people, I teach stress management, so putting those tools into it. My big problem is being a caregiver, I still have very little time to do this stuff. And I then went into a media program where I ended up being on the radio afterwards, but we were supposed to be doing Facebook Live. I'm totally technologically challenged. I could not figure out how to do that. And I'm sure it's probably not that hard, but I just didn't have the time to make it happen. But
Is there somebody on the call right now that is familiar with Facebook Live that would be happy to jump on a little Zoom or Skype call with Vicki and just kind of show her how that works? Is there anybody on the call that knows how to do it that could make that happen? Let's just see. I don't know. Have you got a few? Let's just see here.
I don't see anyone. Anyone raise their hands if they...
There you go. Carol. Carol says she can do it.
Carol.
So
Yeah.
please connect with Carol. It's actually really straightforward. It really is very straightforward. Frankly, and Suzanne says she can help you as well. So maybe even the 3 of you could get together, because maybe each of you have different ideas. But, really, it's a fairly straightforward matter of when you're going to post in Facebook, there's now a little camera there that says live, and you basically click that, and then it'll bring up a screen with your face on it. And then it's like start live broadcast or something like that. It's really straightforward, but you've got 2 volunteers that can give you a little walkthrough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And hey, listen, congratulations on that award. That's really, at the end of the day, there are a lot of awards you might want to win as a speaker, but the award for being able to really draw an audience in, that's really what we're all about. It's called broad spectrum appeal. And it's like really taking an audience on a journey and an experience that goes beyond just giving them facts. So well done.
Thanks. So I'm working on the book. Don't have a lot of time to, so I'm going to take a week in August, the end of August, and just go to Palm Springs where it's too hot to go out and sit and write. And my hospital is doing we have these things called Miracle of Living. They're big presentations that are for the community, and we're doing it on memory. And I'm doing the segment on what the caregiver of the person who's having memory problems needs to do to put in place as the condition progresses. And then out of the blue, I got a phone call from this CUTV news station asking me about, they're doing a series of talks on women's empowerment, and they wanted to do a segment on guided imagery. And I just sat there and thought, how did you get my name? I did my guided imagery training like over 15 years ago, and I did it for a while, and then again with the caregiving, it was too much. And I teach it in groups, but I haven't been doing one-on-ones. So anyways, I talked to the woman for quite a while, and she said, I really hope you will do this. I've interviewed 3 people, and I still never understood what guided imagery was, and now I do. And so I'm doing that. I'm not getting paid. In fact, I'm paying, and I think that's kind of weird. But I'm going to have a blog post, which is another thing people have told me I need to do, but I have not a clue how to do that. And then they're doing a whole bunch of PR and stuff. So I figured it's cheaper than Eric's Speakers Academy. So I guess it's worth the money. Anyways, that's where I'm at. Things are
Vicky, all inspirational and all good. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Vicky. So Eric.
That's great, you guys. It was really, really nice to connect with so many of you. I love to hear about your journeys and your updates. So Kelsey, how long are we scheduled for? I just want to know how much time I've got for Q&A to the degree people have questions.
We have 45 more minutes.
Okay, sounds good. So let's see if we need that. Stage is to the and you know, don't feel pressured, but to the degree that you've got questions, you know, about speaking and about your business as a speaker and that sort of stuff, this is the time for that. And Kelsey, if you could just manage that process for me, that'd be great.
Awesome. Okay.
I don't think the electronic hand raising feature is on. I saw somebody commenting we couldn't find it, so it might just be that regular hand raising is the answer.
Yeah, regular hand raising, or just comment in the chat that you have a question and I'll bring you up. So, okay, anyone with any questions, just raise your hand. I do have one from Julie Brown, and she, so maybe I'll start off with that. She had to drop to leave this one, but she did leave her question with me. So
yeah, and she can see the answer on the recording. Perfect.
So basically, she's supposed to speak at a 2-hour wellness program for about 30 staff. And the host would like her to speak about like 8 different topics. And her question is, how do you narrow down the information to get to the core of the best speech for this workshop or content?
Well, there's 2 things to consider. The one is that if you try to be all things to all people, it waters down your brand and waters down your, you know, waters down people's awareness of you. So that's a careful thing to consider. That said, the way I will always resolve a conflict like that, for me, is about the evaluation of my overall strategic objectives. Going through that exercise, developing a list of my strategic objectives, and then comparing each talk to see which of those talks is going to integrate into those objectives best, then I'll make a decision.
Awesome.
Cool. Rosemary, the answer is this, that we were we were conceptualizing doing a sort of soft launch of Speaker Nation. And as I got speaking with some people, including, for example, one of our potential investors is the guy who started like the largest comedy club in the entire United Kingdom and really sees what we're doing here and is really excited by it. As we got talking with the people, we found that that we didn't want to do a soft launch because we didn't want to see somebody necessarily mimic what it was we were doing. So we are currently preparing basically an offering document to raise a small amount of cash to do a much broader launch, like with a much better developed website and app support and marketing funds to really launch it. I don't have an ETA on when those clubs will start, but we will definitely keep you guys informed. And it will definitely keep you guys informed on that for sure. And Suze, I haven't really pursued that a great deal. I've been on the road a lot. I know that Andrea reached out to the agent that originally introduced me to our mutual friend, and I haven't heard from Andrea since. So, but that was only a couple days ago, and that's because I think we finally have made a decision about the order of book release, and that's been a big issue for me with 12 titles in development. It's hard. It was really a complex question of what should be released when, and I think we've got that resolved. And on that basis, we've now reached out to the primary agent. And then, of course, this week I'm off to Montreal with my Transformational Leadership Council group, and of course, I've got a number of people in there that have agents and good ideas of agents for me to connect with. So yeah, that's moving along nicely now. Incidentally, the first of the 12 books, it looks like right now, unless an agent unless an agent or a publisher suggests otherwise, the first book will actually be in essence a business freedom Bible. It'll be a book on how to build a company with business freedom. That will be the first book in the series. Thanks for asking.
Michelle also, she raised her hand. She has a question. So I'm just unmuting you, Michelle, and you can go right ahead.
So Eric, I don't know if you have something that you do, but I notice especially when you're presenting and somebody brings up a question that's multi-point, you have a really good way of addressing each point. And so I was wondering, how do you remember all of that while you're also formulating what it is how you're going to respond?
That interesting that you noticed that. So I have a couple of different ways. The one, when I'm sitting at a desk, and when I'm sitting at a desk, I will actually take running notes. I'll sit with a notepad and take running notes, because I really, if somebody raises 5 points in their question, I'm pretty good at remembering stuff, but notes are always going to be better. But the other one, and this is going to sound a little bit flippant, but the other technique that I use is just being really curious, like actually being really interested in what the person is saying. And I know that sounds silly, but and I'm sure you've never done this, and nobody on this call has ever done this, and I've certainly never done this, but you've been in that situation where you're having a conversation with somebody, and rather than listening to what they're saying, you're already formulating your response. And so I mean, again, I'm sure none of you have ever found yourself in that situation, but what I have found is that when I use active, engaged listening, then it's a whole lot easier for me to remember those points. And like on a call like this, that's exactly, none of you have exceeded 3 points in your talking with me. If you'd exceeded 3 points, it might have caused a challenge, but also the points were all kind of related, and I'm really actively engaged. So it just makes it easier to do it. So answer number one, take notes. Answer number two, be really curious and actively engage in what the talker is having to say. What the whoever's answering the question, asking the question, or whatever the case might be.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was inspired to ask the question because I've seen you do it live. So there was no note taking when it was happening, and I was just kind of in awe, like, wow, how did he just do that?
Yeah, when it comes to live, I'll say this, that the first thing is that I obviously have been doing this a long time, and so when I do it, when I've done it in the past, like with note taking, it's actually sort of trained my mind to keep track of that stuff. excuse me, I find that like I would write the stuff down and then I wasn't even ending up looking at it in the end, but I certainly was every single time to begin with. And I learned this, funny enough, in sales, because I would be making sales calls and I just got into the habit of writing down the key points that any client talked about so that I was able to get, like, here, I'll give you a really good example of an exercise on how I did this. Is if I was in a sales situation, I would ask, what do you want from me? What do you want exactly? You want to do a backflip? I don't like when you do backflips over the coffee table. So when I was in sales, I would often, and you guys should try this, right? Like, especially if you're talking to somebody who books speakers, you should say, oh, I noticed that you booked insert name here. How did that happen? Now watch what's going to happen. They're going to give you their recipe for how they book speakers. Oh, well, one of our members suggested it. And so I went and watched some of the videos on YouTube. And as I watched the videos on YouTube, I saw how lively and funny the presentation was. And so at that point, what they're doing is they're describing for you their buying process. So now if you save that buying process by taking notes, then you're able to go back to that person and go, oh, so yeah, I can imagine that would happen. It's funny because I've had some similar things happen where somebody has suggested me at a conference and then the conference organizers are gone and found my funny videos on YouTube. And you actually, no kidding, walk them back through the same buying cycle that they just gave you. And guess what they want to do at the end? Buy, right? And so as a salesperson, I just got in the habit of taking notes and keeping track of the issues and so that I would be able to respond properly. And then here's the tougher part, and this is not my favorite answer because it's kind of like, I don't fully understand it, but I just have a huge amount of trust that when somebody asks me a question, I'm going to come up with the answer. And so, somebody might ask a 3-pronged question, and somehow, because I'm so curious about them, because I'm so empathetically connected with them, that I'm able to give them their answers, give them answers for their specific questions. I still think it starts with note taking. The intuition comes after.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for noticing.
So Suzanne also has a question. Just unmute you right here. All right, go right ahead. Oh, there we go.
I have a comment and a question. A comment is kind of on the heels of your last comment about the trust. At the academy near the end, Mobina and we became very good friends. And when everybody was speaking, and I think I was one of the last 3, and I was like, I was an internal mess. And even after the whole week had gone by, and even though I'm very confident to speak in I just do, I was still a mess. So I'm writing notes as people are talking, I'm listening, and I don't know how many times, but finally she said, stop. She's very, if you know Mobina, she's very calm and very calming. And she said, you know your story, you know your stuff, just trust. And it almost brings tears to my, look, it already is, because she was so trusting. Anyway, so I don't know why this is happening right now, but sorry. Anyway, she said, put your book away. So I put my book away, and I was engaged listening. It wasn't that I was ignoring everybody and doing my own stuff, but I was in total panic mode. And anyway, I went up and I was nervous as crazy, and I felt that it actually went fairly smoothly considering the wreck I was sitting in that chair. So there is a lot to say for self-trust. And sometimes going to events like that, it's not only the event itself, but it's the people that we meet along the way that have a great influence, at least for me. So there's that. And I don't know, Eric, if this is the right platform for me to ask this, for you to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it. I wonder if you wouldn't, because I don't know how many people are into it, but speaking of the law of attraction, in regards to the next steps. I don't know if you want me to continue with my question or
No,
not.
go. I mean, I can speak to it, or you can make it more clear if you like.
Okay, well, I didn't know if you wanted me, okay. So what I've noticed in my life, and I'm not BSing, I'm not making shit up and making excuses. If I can't do something with ease, and I struggle to do something, it flops. I spend hours and hours and hours doing something, and then it either flops or I wasted time because it never got used or whatever. And I really do want to do Facebook Lives. I was just at the Stampede, and my friend and I, we did them, and it's very easy. It's really fun. I don't, but I still haven't got clarity of thought as to what I'm going to precisely do them about. Like I love Suze's an hour and a half, kicked out this many. That's what I want to do. I generally want to do them, but I'm afraid, speaking law of attraction-ish, and knowing how I work, I did so many last year, and every one of them were scrapped. And it's not because of perfectionism. They really were crap. They really weren't what I wanted to speak about. So I feel like, am I making sense? Like, at what point, and I also know myself too, is, everybody's talking about resistance. You just got to push through. Well, I know myself. And yeah, there's times when I don't want to go to a meeting, but I go because I know I got to go, and I'm totally cool with it. But this isn't resistance. This is something inside me saying this is not the right time yet. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, let me just touch on a couple of different things. First of all, your comments on Mobina, like you're dead on. First of all, just generally about your idea that a program like Speaking Academy is not just about time with me. It's not just about the content. It's not just about the exercises. It is absolutely about the community, and a program like that really does attract some fascinating people. For those of you who don't know who Suzanne's talking about, Mobina is a senator in the Canadian government, and she came along to the speaking, and really, really fascinating to have around. I suggest, for those of you who haven't checked it out, check out my Facebook feed, because about 3 weeks ago, I was actually in Ottawa with Mobina, receiving an award from the Canadian Senate. So it was quite an experience. And it just, again, reiterates that point of public speaking opens all kinds of doors for you. I received this medal from the Senate, and that would never have happened if I wasn't a speaker. I can tell you that absolutely clearly. Now, let's go to law of attraction, and then, of course, law of attraction, and then, related to that, how you're choosing your content and what you're doing. Those things are related. And what I would say to you is that I believe that law of attraction, like many things, has been overcomplicated for profitability purposes. In other words, you had to watch the movie The Secret to really learn about law of attraction. Then you had to read the book, The Secret Behind the Secret. And then after that, you had to watch the other book. It was The Secret Behind the Secret Behind the Secret. Then you had to watch the book, There Is No Secret, and it just went on like this, right? And so I want to put to you that I believe that the general principles that are talked about in the law of attraction that might talk about visualization and vibration and that kind of stuff, that at the very core and at the root of it all, there's one fundamental thing that overrides everything else, and that is your own personal attractiveness in terms of what you are doing on a day-to-day basis. And so when somebody is doing a job they dislike, or telling a story on stage that they dislike, it doesn't matter how well they do that job or tell that story, the audience is going to pick up their dissatisfaction, and that's going to come across as non-attraction. Does that make sense?
I think so.
On the other hand, well, and maybe this is a nice way of describing it. You're an investor and you go meet a business owner, and the business owner has just spent the entire day, you're meeting them for dinner, and that business owner spent the entire day cleaning up garbage and fighting fires. And then you meet with another business owner, and they were at work all day, only working on stuff that was totally aligned with their passion, and they enjoyed it a great deal. Everything else about these two companies is the same. Which one are you more likely to invest in?
First thing I thought of was, the story.
It's pretty straightforward.
The power of story, right? The way you just reframed that, the power of story.
Yeah. There you go. So you know, and so now take that through and apply it to your question of choosing the topics and so on. Well, again, I would put to you that having a really good comprehensive list of strategic objectives is always going to help you to choose which story you should tell. Then on top of that, there's another side, and I always do this. What is going to be the most fun for me in the audience? I just want to know that. I mean, I'm there to have fun. I'm there for them to have fun. And so one of my pervasive questions is going to be, which stories do I get the most enjoyment out of telling? And because I have such a strong empathetic connection with the audience, the answer, the next question is the same answer, and that is, which story is going to be the most fun for the audience to hear? And that's a large part of the way I'll figure it out. And then I'll shoehorn the story into the point. I hope that helps. By the way, going back to the question previously, I think Michelle, about the how do I keep track of the topics? I just found another way I did it, because I don't know if you noticed that, but I did the same thing now. Suzanne's comments were not short. And so she started off with the story about Mabina. Then she asked some sort of vaguish questions about law of attraction. Then she went to the heat of the matter, or the root of the matter. And that was this issue of topic selection and how do you choose all that stuff. So I used a technique for that, and I do it all the time. I'm just not conscious of it sometimes. But that is that I use something called memory pegging. So the minute Suzanne starts talking about Mobina, I have my thumb and I just tapping it, going Mobina, 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 Mobina. And it's just reminding me that that's what that topic was. And the second finger was law of attraction, law of attraction, law of attraction. And then the third finger was topic selection, how do I know what to do? And so when I go to answer mode, I no kidding, just tap my thumb on the first one, and it just immediately brings up Mobina. It's just a little memory pegging technique that I've used for years, and I'd forgotten all about it until you asked the question, and then I watched myself do it with Suzanne. So bonus content.
Thank you.
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Thank you, Suzanne. And thank you, Eric, for that great answer. Suze actually has a question.
Hi, I typed it in earlier, but I just wanted to come back to it. And it comes from Vicky's point about what it costs, and you know that yes, you do need to make an investment in your career. And I know that I've been navigating that, going from pay to play to speak for free because you can sell your book, to being paid to speak. And I'd really appreciate, Eric, your perspectives on that transitioning. I know I would find it really helpful just in supporting my transitioning. And from Vicky's question, I think that it might be a more broad question for people.
Yeah. Hey guys, am I back?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Can you just give me the last bit of what you said there? I got cut off like halfway through.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So how far did we get?
I just kind of like, just as you were wrapping it up toward the end, like just the kind of final question.
Okay. So I just said I would really, as I'm navigating that, would appreciate your perspectives, but I think it's a broader question from what I heard from Vicky, because she was talking about, you know, it was costing her to do this and costing her to do that. It's a natural progression in the speaking world, it seems to be. And I would just like to hear your perspectives on how to transition from that pay to play.
Yeah. Okay. That's, yeah. It's, again, you know, Suze, this has everything to do with global strategic objectives rather than speech-based strategic objectives. So for me, I have never really spent a lot of focus on the keynote speaking world. It's just never really been an issue for me. I know that if I was to go out into the world as a keynote speaker, my fees are probably, I probably don't even want to know them, because they would start to tempt me. You know, like, and I mean that quite literally. Like, I know Elise apparently wants to know them. she
I like the
she
way
is,
she thinks.
yeah, she's already tempted by them. But you know, like I'll give you an example. I met with a friend of mine today, and he travels around and he speaks quite regularly on business for a particular business group, and they pay him about $5,000 per speech. And that would not intrigue me. That would not interest me. Although, to be fair, he did 3 cities in 3 days, so he made $15,000 for 3 days of speaking. Now that's not bad. And you know, and so my approach in that transition is to look at your strategic objectives and ask why. Most of what I'm doing is strategic for the long game. So, as a good example, some of you guys might be familiar with BNI. I'm a big fan of BNI, Business Networking International. I really like the format, what they do. They've grown dramatically. They have over 200,000 members. It's a really neat organization. And some of the team is trying to get me booked to speak at their annual conference. And they do pay, you know, honorariums of some sort, I suppose. But what do you think that the honorarium, that the speaker fee is my larger reason for wanting to be there? Not in the least, because I know that they're all influencers. It's all their area directors, regional directors. And so if I can impress them, they're going to go tell their members about me. So it's, to me, I'm looking at that, you know, in a very different way. That said, what I would suggest is that when you're making that transition, like here's one of the things to do transitionally. And I think I generally mentioned this during the Speaking Academy, but that is if somebody wants to book you as a speaker, but let's say they're just not prepared to pay the fees that you're advertising, that you're asking for, and you kind of want to break in with them for the first time. I've done this where I'll say, all right, I'll waive my fee for the first time, or I'll cut it in half for the first time, but I'll make it absolutely clear that they knew what the fee was, maybe even by invoicing them. And so, you know, if you want to charge $10,000 for a speech and they're just not prepared to pay that, they're telling you they only have a budget for 3, then invoice them 10 and discount them 7, because that's going to create a gestalt. It's going to create a memory. They're going to go, oh, I remember her fee. It was closer to 10,000. And next year when they go to book you, they're going to, wow, did she ever do well? Ooh, but she's pretty expensive. Well, you know, that's what you get, what you pay for. But you've created this memory that that's really what the fee is. And I think that's one of the important tools in that transition. The bigger thing though, Suze, and you know, for all of us, is get clear on what your global strategic objectives are, so why you're taking any talk. And like I said, in my case, I am doing some engagements here. You know, I'm doing an engagement on Friday. I'm kind of doing it as a favor for a friend of mine. I'm coming in to do like an hour-and-a-half sort of speech consultancy for them. And, you know, and they're paying me, I don't know, 1,500 euros or something to do that. That's way lower than I would ever charge for my keynote fee. But I'm already here. I can take an Uber there. I'm not getting on a plane. I have the morning free. You know, what the hell? It's fun. I'm going to enjoy it. So, and here's the truth between all of us on this call. Some of you guys know me well enough that I probably would have done it for free if they just brought me lunch. Right? So, you know, I'd rather do it this way. So I think that the strategic objectives is the biggest issue in guiding the transition between the different types of speaking.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else with questions? Just checking. Leafy does have she wanted to just share a little bit more with her update just on the impact of her talks with her family.
Sounds good. Leafy, I'm going to have to make Leafy last because I'm going to have to start getting ready to feed my family over here. So Leafy, you're up.
Okay. And I'll just be fast, but I know that I shared more on the broad spectrum of what it's done for us business-wise. But when I did the 2 speeches that I chose at Speakers Academy, I actually never really articulated them and spoke them out loud that way, and definitely amongst my family. So when I brought those videos home and I shared them with my mother and my sister, who never really knew how our life experience affected me and how I held that in all those years, it was actually very freeing and transformational. And even for what I'd gone through with the pregnancy, I'd shared that video with my husband. And once again, they were just watching from the outside, but they never heard the core of the experience and what it did for me. So I was so blessed to have that experience, the recording, and play all in and really dig into some painful truths that I've never expressed out loud, and then realized how much they impact so many other people. And my sister and I have to report, we weren't talking for well over a year. And we actually took a road trip down there, and I could just feel things change once I recorded that story. And my intent was to show her this story. And sure enough, I showed it to her, and Melanie was there as a witness, and it was just so bonding and transformational. And she's actually in the middle of doing a WildFit challenge with us. And it was so healing when you really speak your truth, even if it's the most deepest pain that you've never expressed in person, you know? And it alters your life in such a freeing way. So as everybody shared, it just reminded me that, oh yeah, that was even bigger than the speaking engagements and all these activities Melanie and I have headed off.
You know, Lucy, you're singing from the hymn sheet. I'm telling you that one of the reasons that I enjoy this work so much is exactly that. Yeah, sure. I think speaking can give people an unfair competitive advantage in their business, and it can help them be more influential. But the fact is that we cause ourselves so much pain, so much strife, and so much suffering by being unable or unwilling to speak our truth. And your story is a real inspiration. And I'm super happy to hear that not only you've bridged the gap with her, but she's even joining you on WildFit, which shows that it's not a loose. I mean, you've really created something special there. Well done.
Yeah, no, and thank you, because I mean, now she reaches out to me on such a regular basis, and what it is we're on an even platform now. Nobody's holding pain, you know, the old stuff that was sitting there. So just thank you, because showing up, that was not on my objective or my agenda, coming to Speakers Academy, and I was gifted with so much more because of the willingness to dig deep. So thank you.
Good job. Good job. All right, listen up, everybody. I think Kelsey, am I correct in saying we have one more of these calls?
Yes, it'll be in October.
Okay, so we have one more of these calls, and on the next call, I will likely skip the check-ins because they take quite a lot of time and go straight into some meat and bone stuff. So what I want to suggest that each of you do is get out a notepad and just notice what kind of questions come up for you about speaking, marketing yourself as a speaker, presenting on stage, whatever the case may be. And, you know, just start putting that together so that we can really hammer out some solid stuff in that final call. And the other thing is that I know that some of you have joined us for our year-long speaker author mastermind, where we do this every month. If you haven't joined that and you're curious about doing that, I highly recommend connecting with Kelsey, and she can get you that information. In the meantime, good luck, carry on. I would say I'll see you in October, but I know there's some of you I will see tomorrow that are still here in Tallinn, and there's others of you that I will see much sooner than that. So instead of that, I will just say see you all soon. Really, really great to see you and hear from you, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Thank you guys all for being on the call today. Just before we head out, we are looking, our last call will be in October. I don't lock in an exact date till we're about a month out, just because of Eric's schedule. I don't want to promise anything without being close enough to it. So I will send out reminders. And if you have any other thoughts or anything else you want to share, please go ahead and do a Facebook Live in the private group. It's actually a wonderful safe space just to even practice. So any other comments or anything like that, feel free to just share with the group. Love you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Talk to you later. Yeah, Carol, I'll get you Vicky's email. I'll send it right over to you, so no worries. Bye, guys.